Hey, it's Mike with Tech PB, and we are going to do a pistol show today. I'm pretty excited about it. I've been planning this show for a little while, and it just seems within about the past, I don't know, about 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden pistols just came back onto the market out of nowhere. It was like everybody had the PGP, and then all of a sudden it's like the TPX and the Tiberius arms and the BT SA-17 all came on the market, which is good. I mean, you know, pistols are fun little gadgets to have in paintball. And so let's go ahead and start taking them apart. The 3 pistols we're going to line up today are the Tippmann TPX. We're going to take out some of the accessories here and stuff like that. And I've got a little note sheet here because there's a lot of stuff to cover here. We're also going to take out the Tiberius Arms 8.1 pistol. That's kind of nice. As you see, the Tiberius Arms and the Tippmann TPX come in a nice little hard case. And we're also going to talk about the BT SA-17. And I've got some accessories in here I'm going to pull out really quick. Got some sizers here. And let's go ahead and pull that out. And we'll get to what some of these little accessories are here in a few minutes. And this, the accessories that I'm pulling from here are from the SA-17 rifle kit, which is one of the aftermarket kits. Okay. And then I'll set the box here for the BT SA-17 aside. Okay, so we've got the TPX here. And we'll put the BT SA-17 here in the middle, and we'll put the Tiberius Arms 8.1 over here on the side. Let's go ahead and talk about price. As it looks right now, Tiberius Arms 8.1 is selling for, retail price right now is $199. Now keep in mind, we are now in the middle of November of 2010, okay? I know I'm gonna get email comments on this video 2-3 years from now. It's so much cheaper. No, okay. Right now it's November of 2010, so we're comparing the prices right now for November of 2010. Prices may change, you know, get into the holidays, stuff like that. The TPX pistol is coming in at $219, and the SA-17 right now, without the accessories that you see here, the SA-17 right now is coming in at $129. So the SA-17 is indeed going to be the cheaper out of the 3. The next thing we're going to talk about is something that's really important, which is magazine cost, okay? On the 8.1, one of the biggest things we're going to talk about here also is that the 8.1 has the first strike round capability, okay? And the 8.1 stores the CO2 cartridge into the magazine. So what you do is you put the CO2 cartridge in here, you twist this little, this little knob down here at the bottom, and you will pressurize the CO2 cartridge, which will stay in this valve. Also, Tiberius Arms is going to be coming out with a less expensive version of these that are basically not going to have the valve that are not going to have the valve in the magazine. What they're going to have is, this is for the 9.1 where you can screw a bottle into the back of it. This is also for some of their other models where you can run a remote line, but basically you will have the ability to not use CO2 cartridges, but using remote line or using the bottle going into the back of the gun, which is ideally the way you want to do it, especially when you're shooting first strike rounds. Okay, first strike rounds are extremely expensive, and you don't want to miss shots because you had a low or a flat CO2 cartridge, or you ran out of air and miscounted and forgot to repressurize it. So next thing we'll talk about is the TPX. The TPX magazines are running right now for $15 each, but I believe they sell them in 2 packs, which are $30. Now, when the TPX magazines first came out, they had 2 models. The first model they came out with was the 8-round magazine, which was the staggered. Now, some people were complaining about jamming issues, complaining about chopping issues, and now they have the new True Feed magazines, which are 7-round magazines. Still the same price, But they, you know, I wanted to, you know, point that out. If you're looking into getting the TPX pistol, you will see the original magazines, which are 8 round. Then you have a new thing called True Feed, which is 7 rounds. Basically what it is, instead of having them stacked up, you know, staggered all the way up to the top, all the rounds go in a straight line so that they feed up there, and people are saying there's a little less chance of chopping or breaking and stuff like that. Also, the the Tiberius Arms 8.1 magazine capacity is 8 rounds. The True Feed magazines, 7 rounds on the TPX. Let's talk about the SA-17. Out of the box, it does not use a magazine per se that goes into the bottom of the grip like a traditional Glock or any of the, you know, like a true semi-auto firearm. The SA-17 uses a stick feed off to the side, which is kind of cool because I can see a lot of stock class users that may not want to do the whole rock and cock but do want the low profile feeding system, may want to possibly purchase something like this to mount it on top of their paintball guns. You know, people that are like phantom owners and stuff like that. But this holds 10 rounds. It's very simple. You basically put the knob all the way to the back, twist the knob up here a little bit, and then you can feed all the rounds, and you can put them in via stick feed or any through the 10 round tubes or anything like that. And let's talk about something that is also important, which is regulated, okay? Regulated air, typically from my experience, is not only more accurate, but also more consistent, you know, both on the target range and also over the chronograph. Most of the time, if you're shooting a regulated gun versus an unregulated gun, typically the regulated guns are going to be more consistent and they're going to be a little bit more accurate. The Tiberius Arms 8.1 does have a regulator in it. The TPX also has a regulator in it. Both of these coincidentally are blow forward designs. If you want to say that, just like the Automag, okay? Blow forward designs, the bolt goes forward and the air vents out through the underside of it, just like an Automag. SA-17 uses a little bit more of an inexpensive system. It is a blow back design, okay? It's a spring on the back of it that, just like a Spider, you know, goes forward, you know, the striker hits the valve, blows the air out the barrel, comes all the way back. The spring on the TPX and the 8.1 is on the front of it, okay? So the air propels the bolt forward, blows it, and then the spring pushes it back. But definitely if you're looking for accuracy, you're probably going to get better accuracy and better Predator chronograph readings with going with the TPX pistol or the 8.1, which is why they're, you know, $60, $70, $80 more expensive. Okay, the SA-17 comes in at $130. There's no regulator in it. The 8.1 and the TPX come in at $199 and $219, but they have a regulator in it. So I wanted to bring that up about the guns, you know, the guns being regulated. As you can see, a lot of the A5 owners are now switching over to the Phenom because they're realizing that the Phenom, because it is regulated air, shoots a lot more accurate than the A5. So, and it's a lot more consistent over the chronograph. And let's talk about barrel threads. The threads on the Tiberius Arms are Tiberius threads, very similar to the twist lock system that you see on Automags and stuff like that. It's a twist lock barrel and it is proprietary. The SA-17, something that's really cool about the SA-17 is that this little tip here is autococker threaded, but there's an insert system that you can purchase for the SA-17. I have a 684 insert. I also have a 692 insert and a 688 insert. So you can actually size your insert that goes into the gun first, and then you can screw an autococker barrel to the end of this. So let's go ahead and reach over here really quick. And as you can see, this is Jen's beautiful Ego 11. I'm just going to show you how this looks really quick. Okay, as you can see, it's screwing in just fine. So you can use autococker barrel threads. I mean, I know that's a little bit crazy looking. You probably use this for fishing or for poking unattended front players. But as you can see, this is the autococker barrel on the front of the SA-17. It is really neat that you can adjust the bore on the SA-17, and I certainly recommend that you take advantage of that and definitely take a look at the paint that you are shooting and look at sizing or buying the insert for it. I've been using the 684, and even though it's unregulated air, the tighter bore is definitely making it a little bit more consistent over the chronograph and making it a little bit more accurate, considering I'm shooting premium, which is boring out at 682. So having that ability not only makes the gun more efficient, makes it more quiet, but also more consistent and more accurate and more accurate. And let's also talk about the TPX. Now the TPX uses A5 threads, but you can't put an A5 barrel in here, okay? So if you took a standard Tippmann A5 barrel, it won't fit in here, even though it is A5 threaded. It's a very thin diameter tube, so you do need to be very careful when you're choosing your barrels for your TPX. I know I had a Lapco Apex Ready barrel that did not fit in here. So even though it is A5 threaded, you cannot put any A5 barrel on here. You need to be very careful. I do know one of the barrels that I was really liking for the TPX was the stock Phenom barrel. I don't know why, for me it seemed to work really, really nice. It has a little bit of porting on it. It's a little bit longer, so it's a little easier to point. It's not overwhelmingly large, but the Phenom barrel inside of the TPX pistol fits great and shoots great and works great. So that was usually when I was out there on the field, that was what I typically used when I shot the TPX pistol. Holstered ability. Okay, Tippmann makes a great holster for theirs. Tiberius arms, as of course, always has a nice holster for it. SA-17, you're kind of on your own. I haven't seen a holster for the SA-17 yet. Maybe they've come out with one, but that stick feed obviously is going to be a little bit of a concern with the SA-17. I wouldn't say the SA-17 is a secondary marker or a backup marker, but I would say, you know, if you're going to be using the SA-17, most likely it's going to be your primary. We talked about the adjustable bore, having the inserts, which was really cool. Let's talk about the different feed systems. Now, on the 8.1, okay, now the T9, you can actually run a hopper into the side of this. Okay, with the 8.1, you cannot do that. There is no milling, or neither does the barrel doesn't have the ability to rotate like it does on the T9 to going through the side. So if you think you may be going to a hopper design, or you may want to put a hopper on here, I would not go with the 8.1. Take a look at possibly going with like a 9 or 9.1, T9 or 9.1. That's going to give you the modularity of using both magazine and hopper. If you purchase the 8.1, you're going to be stuck to just the magazine fed. The SA-17 does have the ability to use both a stick, the 10-round tube here, and also it has the ability to use a hopper feed, which, as you can see right here, it slides right over it. Now, something else with the SA-17, which is really cool, this is really good for the TM7 and the, what was the other one? The TM15, the new one that they came out with, the TM15, is that these feed systems are all modular. So you can take this same stick feed, if you already own a TM7 or a TM15, and put it on there. These are good for people that want to do limited ammo, mil-sim type play, limited ammo, woods ball play, stuff like that. You can actually take these. This is all, the BT system, the feed systems are all modular, which is really cool. I haven't seen anybody make a rip drive yet for the SA-17, but I'm sure maybe one might be coming. The feed system also with a TPX, you're just stuck to the magazine. That's the only, that's your only option that you have with the TPX pistol, is just the magazine. But luckily the magazines are pretty cheap. Let's see what anything else here. Remote line. The 8.1 at this moment does not, I don't believe, has the ability to be able to run a remote line. The SA-17, with some additional accessories, which I'll talk about here in a second, you can run a remote line to it. The TPX is very easy to run a remote line. You simply remove a plug and it slides in. You can run a remote line to it and shoot as many magazines as you want. The SA-17, the thing I really like about the SA-17 for people that may want to, if they buy a pistol and they may not be happy with it being a pistol, they feel like they're not getting enough use out of it, you can very easily mount a remote bottom line to it. What it does, it goes in through the bottom like that. It has this fake CO2 cartridge that you screw into, you put it in there. and it goes in through the bottom like that. You can mount your bottle on here. You can put your loader right on top here, and you basically got a pretty badass little pistol setup here. If you're not happy or you're not sure that pistol play is going to be for you, you feel like you're not going to get a lot out of it, I'd probably say go with the SA-17, because if you buy it and you're like, I'm not really using it as a pistol, but let me go ahead and just convert it to a semi-auto and use the bottom line in a hopper, and now you're back to shooting basically a semi-auto single trigger pistol. Probably the special features about each one of these is, if I'm going to go through and name it, obviously the 8.1 is the first strike rounds. Okay, being able to hit somebody at over 500 feet, shooting 290 feet per second is a major advantage. Okay, it's going to be one hell of a shot. I mean, you're going to be aiming, then you're going to be aiming up pretty high, and you're going to have to arc it at probably 20, 30 degrees to hit somebody at 500 feet, but you have the ability. That gives the 8.1 a considerable advantage when you're playing in areas where first strike rounds are going to be allowed. You can shoot normal paintballs through, and you can shoot first strike paintballs through it. Now you're going to have to adjust your velocity. First strike rounds are a lot more efficient and come out a lot faster than standard paintballs, just because of the shape of the back of it. Okay, if you chrono a normal paintball at 300 feet per second, your first strike rounds are probably going to come out between 320 to 330. Okay, you're going to get about a 30 feet per second boost shooting first strike rounds through the 8.1. Probably the coolest feature, which we already covered on the SA-17, is its modularity, okay? You can use the SA-17 as a pistol, even though you got a stick feed on the side of it, or you can buy the, the feed neck here and go in and use a bottom line, and you can use it basically as a standard semi-auto pistol. It's basically going to be like a semi-auto stack tube blowback, semi-auto, like a spider, basically, is what you're going to be converting it to. But you have that ability to do it. And if you don't, if you don't like that, and you want to go back to a pistol, you can go back to a pistol. Probably the TPX. The thing I probably like about the TPX more than anything else is how expensive the magazines are. And one thing that I really like about the TPX pistol is, unlike the other ones, the CO2 cartridge is not punctured until you squeeze the trigger. Okay, you can take a CO2 cartridge, drop it into the TPX, and it will not be punctured until you squeeze the trigger for the first time. So when you squeeze the trigger for the first time, that's when you actually puncture the CO2 cartridge. What's really cool about it is if you have the TPX, you can actually holster it, leave it there all day long, and then when you're ready to actually use it, squeeze the trigger to gas the gun up and then start shooting. You never have to worry about having a dead CO2 cartridge when you actually need it. Now, I would be really careful with all of these. If there is one thing I noticed with all of these, is you have to be very careful about how you store the paint inside of here. If you take these things and you fill them full of paint and you put them inside of your pocket, you start sweating and this, that, and the other, that moisture is going to get absorbed in the paint. You're going to have nothing but mush in here. So you definitely want to take a look at some sort of magazine holder when you're using the 8.1 or the TPX before you go out there on the field. I tried putting these in my pocket. Was not a good idea. 10 minutes as I was out there, it was just basically one solid stack of mush paintballs, and it didn't do me any good at all. I think that's about it. I think I covered just about everything. We covered the bore, we covered the holster, we covered the bottom line. Oh, I did miss one thing with the 8.1. Now, obviously you don't want to do this because you don't have any other place to mount the hopper, but Lapco does make an accessory for the 9 or the 9.1 if you're using the hopper, where you can put the bottom line. It's got a bottom line coming out of the bottom of it. I think it's like 60, 70 bucks. It's not cheap at all, but you do have the ability to run a bottom line off of the T9 or the 9.1 if you go on the hopper design, but you will have to purchase that accessory from Lapco. And they also coincidentally make a really nice little top mounted sight rail for the TPX pistol, which is really cool. So if you're looking at possibly putting some sort of a red dot on the TPX pistol, definitely go to Lapco and check out the sight rail that they make for it. It's a Picatinny rail. I believe it's like 50 bucks. It replaces the standard block that goes on here. It's really neat. Let's see if there's anything else I missed. I think that's about it. Probably if I had to, how would I recommend these guns? If you're looking for something cheap and you're not sure that pistol's really going to be your bag, you're not really sure that's what you want to go with, I'd probably say go with the SA-17. Very easy. For just a couple bucks more, you convert it into basically a spider stack tube blowback. It's a nice little pistol, and this is modular. If you have a TM7 or a TM15, you can put the stick feed on there and use it for limited ammo type things. If you know that you're going to really like pistols, it's kind of a toss-up between the TPX or the 8.1. The one thing I would say about the TPX is the magazines are a lot cheaper. So if you're in an area where you never think you'll ever have to use first strike rounds, you never have any interest in using first strike rounds, TPX pistol is probably going to be the way to go. 15 bucks a magazine, that's not too bad. You can buy basically 4 magazines for 60 bucks. You know, that's very cheap. Basically, for every one Tiberius Arms magazine that's currently on the market. Now, I know they're going to be coming out with one that's going to be missing the valve. It's supposed to be cheaper. It's not out as of November 2010. But for every one of the Tiberius Arms magazines, you can pretty much own almost 3 of the TPX magazines. That's a pretty big difference. So, if you never have any interest in using first strike rounds, you don't think any of the scenario games or woods ball fields that you play at will use first strike rounds, TPX would be a really good alternative for that. Probably my personal favorite is going to be the Tiberius Arms, just for the fact that you can use it for first strike rounds. Okay, around here in Florida, first strike rounds are pretty well accepted. You know, some of the scenario games I play at are starting to allow first strike rounds and stuff like that, and just being able to use first strike rounds is a major advantage. Plus, first strike rounds don't decay. They don't get soft and mushy like normal paintballs do, so they're a little more resilient when they're inside of the holster. Tiberius Arms, probably the 8.1 is probably going to be my favorite out of the 3. It's also probably the easiest to take apart. It's also the most expensive, but I really like the Tiberius Arms gun. It's a really good shooting gun. Followed up by probably the, in terms of the true pistol, TPX I really like, SA-17 I really like. All these guns are really good. The one thing I would be very careful about if you're shooting very brittle paint, you know, especially blow forwards like Tiberius Arms, like the, you know, like the TPX, they're very tough on paint when you start getting to about the 285, 290 mark. So you're just gonna have to kind of monitor that with your playing conditions. The SA-17 didn't seem to really care. So didn't matter, you're shooting 300 feet per second with it, it shot 300 feet per second just fine. But the blow forwards, you know, the TPX and the 8.1, once you started getting them up about 290, 295 in terms of the feet per second, tend to be a little rougher on paint. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So hopefully that helps you make a decision on the pistols. You know, what I'm going to do is I'll end the show and I'll talk about, you know, when are pistols fun and stuff like that. You know, it is a good gadget, you know, if you're, you know, if you're just out there, you know, playing with some friends and stuff like that, you know, or you're out there and you just want to goof off and have a really good time and just try to take it to another level of fun. Pistols are a great way to go. I mean, I like going out there with a pistol. It's not something I would do all the time, but it is kind of fun and to go out there shooting. I get comments all the time. Mike, I've always wanted to go out there and, you know, shoot dual wielding pistols. And I'm like, you know, that's kind of funny. It's always been my fantasy to shoot out somebody who's dual wielding pistols, but yeah, that's another subject altogether. When are pistols probably when do they get their most use? My personal opinion, I don't play a lot of night play, but I think night play would be the ideal situation to use a pistol. Why? Because you can have them holstered, you can have your magazines, you know, off to the side, and you have your hands to maneuver, to crawl, to move, to do what you need to do, to get the objectives done, to run the missions, and to get the points for your team in scenario play. That's when I think pistols really, you don't shoot anybody out in night play, but you do need to accomplish missions, and probably the best way to do it would be to have the use of your hands so you can feel your way through the trails, you can feel your way through the forts, get the objectives that you need to get the missions done and stuff like that. That's when I think pistols really shine, is during the night play. You know, I don't play a lot of night play. Unfortunately, I had a couple bad experiences many years ago playing night play. I sprained my ankle, I've fallen down and stuff like that. It's just not really anything I tend to like to do. There are some maniacs out there that really get into night play. It's just not for me. But I would say if I was going to play night, I would definitely have a pistol. I'd probably leave my gun in the, you know, in the trunk of the car and just use the pistol when I'm out there. I think that's a really good time to do it. Or when you're out there and you just want to, you're out there playing rec ball and having a really good time, that would, you know, pull it out and have a good time with it. People are going to probably think you're nuts and stuff like that. Or, you know, I definitely would not be looking to throw down my marker and pull this thing out and go charging the forts like a skirmish or something like that. It's definitely not what it is. But what should we end the show with? Oh, I know what we'll end the show with. Let's end the show with, how can we forget? The Goblet is here. Well, I tried using the Goblin when I was out there. It's, you know, is it cool to look at? Is it cool to attach to your mold vest? Yeah, does it? I don't know. Unfortunately, I just wasn't very impressed with the Goblin when I was out there. I mean, it just, the range on it was terrible. I couldn't even get it to chrono when I was shooting over the chrono. I think it's a really cute gizmo. to have, but I probably, with the exception of maybe pointing it at your chest and committing suicide as you're about to get overrun and coming out with a hit on your chest, I really don't see much use for the Goblin in any sort of even wreck ball type scenario. I think about the best thing to use a Goblin for is probably committing suicide when you're out there. But that's for the Goblin. Thanks for tuning in.